welcome to our fourth of four in our limited podcast series, Strength in the Storm. We're talking about an anthology book that you spearheaded, Andrea. So again, remind us, what are people going to take away from this book?
They're going to be inspired and uplifted just in their everyday walk. I'm going to read the dedication because this is for you ladies. So I'm just going to read it right from the book here. May you feel the warmth of God's presence, even in the darkest storms. Let these stories speak to your heart, reminding you that there's always light, always faith, and always His unspeakable love holding you up. This book is for you, the courageous soul who keeps moving forward, trusting His grace to carry you through. We want people to just be held.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And, we've talked over the last couple of podcast episodes here about the women, giving you a little snippet of their story and shown how God has held them and carried them from the darkness into His light. So, and as if all these stories weren't amazing enough, we've got 10 more. So let's introduce you to our 10 remaining authors. First up, Lori Vober. She has overcome amazing physical adversities with things that struck her at a very young age.
Yeah. Something that we wouldn't expect until 60s, 70s, 80s. She dealt with in her 20s and life altering for certain. But yet she has this attitude of gratitude. That saying is way overused, but she is a grateful human being and such a wonderful inspiration to everyone. She speaks in cancer centers, stroke centers. She is just building up people who desperately need that building up. Lovely woman.
And we also have Darcy Hicks. And I know so many people are going to resonate with her story when you think, what was that, God? Surely you didn't say what I think I just heard.
That's right. Every once in a while, we hear something we're not sure. Was that you, God? Or we move when we know that it was God and find ourselves in a predicament going, wasn't that you, God? But her story is really all about those things. And when our plans are upset, where does that leave us? She's a beautiful woman who worked her way through that upsettedness.
And Janet Hart Leonard, precious lady. Love her. She's a prolific author. She writes a column. She just writes all day long.
She does. Yes. So much experience from this woman. You want to be her best friend immediately. That's just who she is. And her story is like taking us down her yellow brick road. I encourage everyone to dive into her fairy tale ending story.
And for a book that's really about some tough topics, here is another woman that is just hilarious. Loves to laugh. I love to hear her laugh. And she just tackles things with joy. Andrea Coletta Nyberg. And she's talking about joy, this particular thing. But boy, circumstances themselves aren't always joyful.
No, that is for sure. Andrea has written another book. And I think anyone who's suffering from mental illness of any kind will benefit from her book. I know I certainly have, even though I don't deal with that, but I know people who have, their family, and to read about her story, her journey, it's life altering in itself. Powerful writer and speaker. She speaks all over as well. Yes,
she does. And Suzanne Steins. Oh my goodness. Such a lady of grace. She's soft-spoken and she's so sweet, but she's a lion. Her story reminded me a little bit of Mary Snyder's in that you get this out of the blue, what in the world diagnosis.
And to walk through that courageously. She is a beautiful human being, impacts people all over, has a wonderful Facebook group and following, just ministering to women all over. Lovely woman. Powerful story. Like you said, a lion.
And another sweetheart of a woman, Susie Lewis. I always think Susie is just walking around all day asking people how she can help them.
Right. Yes. Servant from the get-go.
but it's not always easy to do that.
I think we can all relate to that as well. When we were just talking about that, God says a word and you're like, man, I think I'll go that way. Let me be Jonah for a while. And so her story is lovely. She has talent. She lives on a farm. Her husband's a pastor. She does all kinds of farm things, and she'll be coming up with like a little farm devotion soon. So
Oh,
these
nice.
women are just so gifted. They truly are. And our readers will enjoy being just drawn in and part of each one of their lives.
And speaking of someone being gifted, Tracy Glenn,
Oh,
oh goodness, she could go outside and rope a calf and then run inside and build you a website.
that's so true.
Your gifts are so spread out all over everywhere. And yet, like all of us, she's had times when she's like, what is my identity?
Beautiful lady. Her story gets me every when she's speaking because I've heard her and her book. She's got I think it's called The Wayward Heart. That's one of them. She's come up over this last year with three journals that are powerful devotions and journals. Her writing, her speaking, it pierces the heart. Like it goes through and those aha, oh my gosh, it just hits me every time. She is truly gifted, like you said, in so many ways. People will want to get to know her in her wild, wild west ways.
And next up, Julie Knapp.
Mm,
I When I met Julie, I was so impressed by how she has allowed God to take her so far in a relatively short period of time.
yeah.
She has so followed after God, going through a devastating loss and coming out. Well, I won't even say coming out the other side yet, but being able to share such a tough story while she's really kind of still walking through it. I'm amazed by her.
Yes, Grace is another one of those, I mean, that fits her life so perfectly. She is running after God's heart. She has so much in front of her and excited to see where her life is going to go. So, Julie's story will impact every reader's heart. It impacts mine every time I read it. And even though we're getting to the tail end of our book, sometimes it's easy to put a book aside after the first few chapters. And I encourage people get to Julie's story, get to the end because it's riveting and you'll want to read all about her and her life and follow her to see where her life will take her and you as you follow her.
And I think for me, one of the most surprising women in our book here is Mackie Smith.
Mm,
Sweet, delicate, soft spoken. But if God tells her to do something, do not get in her way.
that's
you,
right.
you will regret it. And she also has a season of loss
Mhm.
that she had to learn to walk through.
What comes up in my mind is sitting in her bathroom closet eating chocolates. I think we've had a few women write about ending up in the bathroom, just a timeout, just a quick timeout. But Mackie is probably the sweetest woman that I know. Well, there's a few in this anthology that are like that, and you just want to give them a hug. You want to just love on them. Mackie has power and courage in her spirit and is another one who just chases after God and his will for her life.
Well, and speaking of someone who has done that, our last author is the lovely Andrea Lendy. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, and I shared some of it at the beginning in our very first episode, but mine is a journey through chronic illness. And I'm thankful that God has walked every step with me. And I share a little bit about that in my story. The title of mine is He's the Dream Maker, and He gives us dream after dream. And when we come alongside of Him and allow Him fully into our hearts, He will put those desires, the desires of our hearts, He gives them to us because they are really his desires.
I think that your story is the perfect bookend for this because the project started with you.
Mm,
This was your brainchild. You guided us, you led us, you encouraged us, you loved on us. And it's just been a tremendous experience.
thank you, Lori. It has been my supreme pleasure to bring all of us together and tell such wonderful stories and share them to again, uplift the hearts of those who will read it. Help us know we are not alone. None of us get through this life unscathed,
Yeah.
but God's glory is behind all of it. In the end, He will take our hard things and glorify Him and His name. And that's what we truly want to do inside of this project. Glorify God's name. It is all about Him. He is the great I am, and what He can do and what He does do for us, He will do for everyone else as well. So we just truly want to glorify Him through this work.
I believe that we accomplished that. Now you know all about why the project came to be, who the contributors, the authors are, a tiny little bit of their story, just enough to make you want to grab this book. It's coming out end of October, early November. Please share these podcast episodes so that more people who need to know that there is strength in the storm can get a hold of this resource and just be blessed.